The ANC has once again defended its list. Secretary-General Ace Magashula was briefing the media on the outcomes of its NEC meeting. Reporter Moloko Moloto is at Luthuli House with more details of that press conference. Now, Moloko, this press conference came just as we were also receiving news of the GDP declining by 3.2% in the first quarter, and Ace Magashula coming out to say that the theme for the sixth administration will be implementation. What else did he speak about?
That is very correct, but let me just also, before I even get into that important point, and say that the ANC Secretary-General did not necessarily say that they will disband the Integrity Commission. However, he did point out that it continues to derive its existence and authority from the National Executive Committee. Now, on the issue of the economy, as we are aware that the economy has contracted by about 3.2%, and we are also aware that the International Monetary Fund has said that South Africa must start implementing structural reforms, and in many instances we are aware that this relates to the reduction of labor, in a lot of instances also holding back on expenditure by the government. The governing party, the ANC, says that it plans to reduce unemployment, which is currently standing at 27.6%, to 14% at least in the next 5 years. But let me bring in an expert, the Associate Lecturer of Political Studies at Wits University, Thokozani Chilenga Butao. Thokozani, when the ANC says they want to reduce unemployment by up to 14% in the next 5 years, are you convinced? Is this even going to be possible, given the fact that the IMF says implement structural reforms?
I think that it is not convincing because we've had the National Development Plan since 2013, which actually outlines poverty, inequality and unemployment, which we heard being outlined here today. The main points that were raised around those issues are in the National Development Plan, and to date the economy has continued to sink. So it's not just an issue of ambition, it's an issue of policy falling down year after year after year, and people who are unemployed really continue to bear the brunt of those policies not taking root. In terms of what the IMF is saying, I think this is just a final warning shot, because we've had issues even during the former presidency where the ANC was saying we can pick up the rand, it doesn't matter what our credit rating is, and now the IMF is really swirling and letting us know that this is the final shot. And if the ANC continues to believe or push ambition that it has not implemented to date, we're in trouble.
I want us to talk about the ANC saying that it's considering to review certain legislation such as the Municipal Finance Management Act and the Public Finance Management Act. Ace Magashula says these laws are prohibitive. In some instances, he suggests that they actually are not helping to empower young people as well as women. Are you convinced that the reasons that he cited are really convincing, given the fact that some people would say it's just going to be to make things easy for people to loot state coffers?
I don't think it's convincing because he didn't clarify exactly what about those regulations he wants to change, or the ANC wants to change. He cited examples of having to find 3 quotations and that being prohibitive. But we know that it is precisely in finding those 3 quotations that people then manipulate those who are coming in as suppliers and service providers to say, well, if you make sure that your quote fits our specifications, then we will, get a cut and you will get profit from that. And that is where the corruption and the tender irregularities are happening. I don't think it's a direct result of the actual PFMA and MFMA, but it is people manipulating those processes.
ANC veteran Mavuso Msimang wrote in the Daily Maverick that he suggests that the African National Congress must actually take disciplinary action against Mzwanile Masina, the mayor of Ekurhuleni, as well as Tony Yengeni, for them for challenging President Cyril Ramaphosa when he appointed Pravin Gordhan for criticizing him. We are aware that Gordhan is not the only minister who's having adverse findings against him. Fikile Mbalula, as well as Becky Cele. Now, Mavuso Msimang goes on to say that you get a sense that Yengeni and Masina are possibly saying, actually, Cyril is not our man, hence the criticism. Do you get a sense that perhaps this is signifying that this unity thing is just a farce?
Yes, I think so. I think that the fact that this line has been drawn, as you called it earlier, shows that those who do not believe in unity or believe that it was a tactic or a strategy to begin with are now showing what they really think about unity and the current president, both of the ANC and of the country. And what we really need to watch out for is where that type of argument and their own strategy to discredit some people in cabinet leads to. I think the president is well aware of that.
The Secretary-General of the ANC, Ace Magashula, said something very interesting here. He emphasized that the ANC remains the center of power. Of course, he did not mention Cyril Ramaphosa by name, but we are aware that as the President of the Republic, he does have certain powers as he sits at the union buildings. What did you read out of Ace Magashula having to emphasize so much that the ANC, not individuals, has that particular power when it comes to governance?
So the reading of that is that any policy that the president wants to proceed with, any action that he wants to take in any way, shape or form, will be derived from the ANC. To keep emphasizing that the center is here is to say that whatever is discussed in Lekgotla is going to be what is implemented, and that the president would probably have to conform to that. Even when he spoke about youth unemployment policies, he didn't mention what the president has already mentioned, such as the youth employment service, which was a bit disconcerting, because now you're discussing bringing in new initiatives on top of what the president already brought in. So that emphasis was to say that the ANC remains the policy-making center, and the president will have to take a cue from that, but we'll see, because the president has his own powers as the executive and as the leader of cabinet, and that is where a lot of the policy-making mandate will come from.
Well, just a final question. Ace Magashula actually repeated today what he said on Friday. He told journalists who were gathered here that you must, as media, you must portray South Africa in a positive light. He essentially wants us to practice sunshine journalism, even saying that even in the US, you don't have the media criticizing the government. They may have an issue here with the president here and there, but they hardly, as he suggests, criticize the issues that are happening in that particular country. Do you get a sense that perhaps he's getting frustrated at the coverage that the ANC, that the government continues to get, given the fact that even on Friday he said there are some journalists who are being used by a politician to spread a particular narrative? Is he wrong in the first place when he suggests that media must project South Africa in a positive light to ensure that there would be investment and tourism?
I think he is wrong. I mean, it goes against freedom of press, and we should be concerned as South Africans what is happening here first before projecting something that may not be accurate. And his assertion that in the US is no negative press, we all know that that is not accurate. So I think what he meant to say is that the ANC would like to get more positive coverage, and that's not forthcoming from the media. But the question is why? What are investigative journalists finding? What are people every day in their own spaces finding and frustrated about? And that should be the concern of the ANC, not sunshine journalism.
Well, there you have it, Associate Lecturer of Political Studies at the University of Witwatersrand, Thokozani Chilenga Butao. One other thing that I should also mention here is that Ace Magashula did emphasize that people should stop criticizing in particular or taking out their emotions on social media, saying that at some point they will be disciplined. But also let me point out that one of the promises which the ANC Lekgotla makes is that they say they want to build new towns and new cities. And if you consider the economic climate, given the fact that the IMF, for instance, is saying South Africa must actually reduce its fiscal deficit, you then wonder where South Africa is going to get that money to build these new towns and cities. Of course, Ace Magashula emphasizing that actually the private sector will also have to come on board. We'll wait and see if all these ambitious promises will ever materialize.
Our reporter Moloko Moloto reporting to us live there from Luthuli House, where that briefing at the ANC's headquarters has just come to an end. Thank you so much for that update.